So I'm Tony Quiroz from GoDaddy. Boy, we are blessed at GoDaddy with a really great art department. Like, this is all photography we do of our customers and people with businesses at GoDaddy. And boy, they help make me look good. I had to get permission for this image, but once I did, it was like, woohoo. By way of introduction, so I kind of put this together. This was fun. At first, I just had a bunch of text here. I was like, okay, so what's my background? If you start at the bottom in the 2000s, this is the timeline of kind of my professional life, like where I started, the companies I've worked with. The size of the logo kind of gives you a sense of how long and how big of an impact that experience was on my career. Yeah, Deb remembers Racing Form because we go that far back together. And towards the top, you see some of the organizations and some of the events I've been in. Basically, a long time in different roles of design, from, I mean, literally an intern at Daily Racing Form, filing photos and learning Photoshop and doing web stuff, into designing for big brands, e-commerce, Coach, Eddie Bauer, Crate and Barrel, into some business territories with Sage, working on things like CRM, into security, back to agencies, and now at GoDaddy. So lots of different stuff in the career. It was kind of fun to plot this, and anybody who's looking to kill some time, do it for yourself. It's actually kind of fun. So that's my professional background. On the family side and interest side, that's my wife and my daughter and my pup and my kitty, and a little bit of my interest. I've played guitar forever, less and less, but I still keep one in the stand. I have that exact guitar there, the Fender American Telly. Big hiker. My daughter's into volleyball. I coached for a while. Now I just kind of cheer and, record the videos. And I love to grill and chill when I get the chance. So good to see you all. I know there's some familiar faces, and nice to see the new ones as well. So just a little kind of disclaimer, and here's your chance. There's the door if you need to use it. This is not tips and tricks. This isn't how to do things in Zoom. This isn't how to do dot voting in Miro. This isn't what we mean by experience mapping in a Zoom crazy world. What I'm going to be talking about is technique and practice, things that we've had to change because the old ways simply don't apply anymore in the way that we've been running things. And I don't know about you guys, but GoDaddy, it's been fully virtual for well over a year and a half now. And for me, that's a permanent situation. I'm not going back to the office that I was in before because it's not there anymore. So there's a lot of things that we've had to adapt. And I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of some things that have worked and some things that we've tried, and hopefully hear from you guys as well. Because to me, some of this, I didn't know that you could really go any other way than what we did. And I'd love to hear what others are doing in some of these situations. All right, so into the introduction then. So think back in time about 3 years ago, before the pandemic, when you could actually travel to see clients or travel inter-office. It was very common when we did these kind of workshops that we're going to talk about today, that you pull whole teams together, right? You get everybody in the same location in a big room, and you go to work. And these were fun days. These were long days. You usually got there at like maybe 7 in the morning, had your coffee and breakfast, started working right away, had lunch brought in, got really tired, ate some sugar in the afternoon, kept going, happy hour. And then maybe there's a day 2. Or in the cases of when I worked at Ethology, we actually had like a 3-day discovery immersion that we would do with clients. So these could go on for quite a while. And that was kind of the norm for running these kind of workshops. But then this thing hit, and in person was not really an option. And I know that some things had been trending that, not everybody was doing in person anyway. Zoom was already here before the pandemic, thank goodness, as were other, WebEx and other kind of hosting tools. So it wasn't totally brand new, but then there was kind of a forced change so that we couldn't do that old way anymore, even if we wanted to, even if we felt like that was what it called for. There was a new way that was required. Right? So to level set, I titled this Experience Mapping in a Zoom Crazy World. And I meant that broadly in that the empathy map, the journey map, the service blueprint, these are ones I had in mind, different ways of mapping customer experience. And lo and behold, I went out looking for something like this and found it, of course, at good old NNG that defined it. And they have a tool called the Experience Map. I haven't actually used that one in the bottom left. Anybody Anybody do experience mapping per the article here? Just go ahead and speak up if you have.
I
Okay,
haven't done it in a specific test, but I do share this with my students as a way for them. That's one of their assignments.
you've seen that. Okay, because that one, again, that was a technique I hadn't actually used. So I put the link in here. The deck will be shared out. This is just great for level setting for yourself, like I had to do, but with your teams in your business or with your clients, because there are different tools for different things, and not everybody's familiar with the use or the reasons for all of them. So where I'm going to be focusing on today are really the two at the top, the empathy map and the customer journey map. Although service blueprint is something I'm doing more and more these days, and that's a whole nother session for another time. So top of this is really focus of today. And then in my mind too, this is how Tony sees the world. This is my process. There's a certain flow to things when you get started. No matter how things come at you or whatever's going on, it doesn't matter if it doesn't follow this order, but you kind of need to get it into a certain order to have things go, which is foundationally understanding what your objectives are, what we're trying to accomplish. Getting your arms around the audience, seeing who's there so you can connect the objectives with the people. Empathy, which is really where our insights and our ideas come in, because we have a closer perspective to what really matters, what's going on, how the people behave, what they care about, which lets us connect and get better outcomes. And ultimately, we look at those experiences either holistically end to end, like 30,000 foot view, or down at certain flows that we want to impact. So maybe a sign up or registration or a first time use and onboarding. Journeys help us really then put the context around things. And this deck is actually organized with this in mind. Others may have other ideas around process or ways that you organize, but I thought it'd be helpful to kind of see how my brain does this, because this kind of evening is going to be organized a bit around that. Okay, so let's talk about this and get into part one, which is really the foundation. So I don't know about you guys, but to me, usually the project that I work on, if it's a journey map, begins here. I get approached usually, completely out of band. Like somebody pops up in an email or a DM on my Slack, and it's like, hey, we need a journey map. Like you're the journey guy. We need to talk to you. We need a journey map, right? And it's funny because you can kind of read it on this girl's face. This is a bit of what I feel too. Like, sure you do. Like half the time, if not more, when people say, I need a journey map, that's not really what they need. And we have a discussion and we kind of try to figure things out from there, but it's a great start to the conversation at least. So folks, I want you to help me out with this. If you think to the beginning of a journey project, or really any project around design here, where you're being asked, it could be, hey, I need a design, or hey, I need a persona, I need a journey, I need a thing from you. What are some of the things that can go wrong early on in a project that could potentially be derailers? Who wants to offer up a first one here?
The scope isn't, I don't know, aligned cross-functionally.
I heard two things, because scope is a big word. What they have in mind versus, the sizing versus the resources is always something that might not be right. And then did you say cross-functional?
Yeah, cross-functionally, like the different departments aren't aligned on what they're asking for.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one right there. I see some popping up in the chat, which is predefined user persona with no research. Yep, of course. Which actually you're going to see, I kind of do some like jujitsu on that and use that to our advantage. Starting with the solution or design versus a problem. In a way, that's what I consider the ask of we need a journey map as. That's a great call out, Colleen, because you're beginning with a solution. The journey map is going to solve my problem. I haven't told you what we're even doing this for yet. That's a good one. No user research. Yep, just an assumption. Good. Don't actually know who uses the product or service. Teresa, could you explain that one?
Sure. On my wife's account.
Okay.
we had a project where we thought it was one group of people, and then actually we did actual user research, and I told them to, and they figured out, oh, it's not actually this group who uses our core users, it's actually this other group. And we actually had to tell them that, like, you guys are marketing to the wrong set of people. It's really these people who are your main people and the people we should be doing a journey map for the product.
And that's huge. All right, that is huge right there. Little time, big ass, good one, Ben. That's the thing, right? So for those of you who've been around UX and AZ for a while, if you go back pre-pandemic, the last in-person talk, I think I did it all, was with this group at Neudesic out in Tempe at what's now the old office, I guess. And it was UX strategy and the questions. And at the time we talked about fundamentally at the beginning of any project, no matter what the ask is, like we're talking about here today, you need to kind of level set on a couple of things before you begin your work. If you can't answer these questions, you will not be successful. And these are not unreasonable questions. Anybody who has an ask of you should be able to tell you the gist of these and get you going. And if they can't, that begins the process right there of analyzing and understanding the kind of work that you're going to need to set up to create value for them. So what are we doing is a clear articulation of the project, but from a business standpoint, like this, we're trying to get this outcome, we're trying to achieve this thing. And then who for, that's us doing our job as the customer advocate. Is it's not just we want this thing done, but we've got to understand if they have a customer in mind. And if so, how they're thinking about that customer. Is it, are they leading with a certain niche or solution? Is it very overly broad? Where's our starting point of their thinking? That's going to help us gauge the kind of work that we're going to do with them. And then the metrics. A lot of times, as we talk about these things, it should maybe be intuitive that we're trying to get revenue. I mean, that makes sense, but it's not always the only thing. And sometimes it's not the most important thing. When we talk about things like engagement, net promoter score, care metrics, like maybe there's something that's, a top call generator, a top issue in the support part of your company, understanding the dynamics of the ways that we'll know that we did the thing we wanted to do, very important. So that is actually the first thing when we talk about the experience mapping in the Zoom crazy world, is this is not a step to skip over. And the neat thing is, just as you just described in the example of the client, or maybe it was inside your own company that's was looking at one customer group and you determined that it was another, by asking and starting to establish the foundation of this project, you can create value before you've done any journey mapping at all. In fact, I've always kind of had the position that, over 50% of the value of the journey work comes way before the workshop and what you're doing to kind of get things set and then get people aligned, choose the customer, know the business outcome you're trying to do. All that stuff roots out a lot. And as you can kind of see in the slide there, I'm going to tell one little story around this that just happened to me. And it was the same thing. There was a team that did a lot of work on strategy last year so that they could hit the ground running in January of this year at GoDaddy. And I'd worked with that team last year on the strategy. It's actually really exciting. I loved what they were doing. It was very customer centric. And this was one of those revolution, not evolution moments. We're going to change the game of how we're approaching this thing, which was great. About 6 weeks into the year, I got contacted by the team, and they had been thrashing. They were not making the progress that they wanted to make. And they asked me, they said, we think what we need is a journey map here. This is going to align people. And here's what we're trying to get done. And as I talked to them, and I went straight to the questions here to understand and back up a little bit about why they needed this journey map. One of the first things that came out was that classic thing around the stakeholders. It turned out there were 3 very senior stakeholders from 3 different parts of the org. And as I listened in this case, it was a product manager I was talking to who started the conversation. In her telling it to me, she's like, you know what? As I tell you this, I realize I need to go back and I need to do some stakeholder interviews, because as I'm speaking this to you, I'm realizing that we're maybe not aligned. And she did that, and it only took her a day and a half, and she got back in touch, and she had done a write-up from each of the 3 stakeholder interviews. And we realized that the reason they were not making the progress they were making is because imagine being pulled in three different directions by three different people with authority, and you kind of get stuck. It's hard to move when you're being pulled in that. So they were able to untangle that and kind of understand, okay, these two, this we can address what you're saying through this piece over here. What the journey really aligns to is this one other team. That's really what we're talking about. And it turned out they didn't need a journey at all. It was a service blueprint. We were looking at back end stuff, and away we go. So I'm sure you guys have stories like that, but I bring this up because, again, do not skip this. Your value as a designer to the business begins with building this foundation, and you can just become a champion on that project from the start just by doing this simple thing. All right, so then it turns into we need a journey map, and of course we need to understand, well, whose journey is it, right? Who is it that we are actually going to be mapping in this process? That's the logical question. Let me pause and ask the groups. I got some really good answers there just a minute ago. Have you guys, who's been in a situation where you're asked to do a journey map and then you're trying to follow up on the customer with who the customer is? Like, what are some of the answers that you've gotten? I'd like those examples that were in there. Like when somebody said that there was Taylor, there was predefined user personas with no research. Have you ever been asked to do a journey on that? I'm sorry, I'm putting Taylor on the spot here too. I might have caught her on the break, but anybody, any stories here? Anybody, does this ring a bell to you at all about being asked about the customer here? You want to hear my stories? Is that it? Well, my classic one actually goes back a couple jobs ago, where we were told that this was a journey for all. What we were trying to develop was a journey map in this case, and it was for all prospects of the business. This was something that was going to have mass appeal to every single customer, and that we wanted to map that journey for all of the customers at once, apparently, in one thing. And of course, that's kind of a difficult task to undertake. This wasn't my best story, I know, but I could go on to more. The point is that this is usually a more difficult question than you think. In fact, sometimes when I ask this question, what happens is the people turn to each other and they realize we don't know that answer yet. Like there's actually several things that come into play here. So when it was the old days, what you're seeing here is a representation of a workshop at the very beginning when we talk about audience. And Taylor, who, sorry if I got you on break there or whatever, but Taylor brought up that, one of the pitfalls can be when you start off with mapping customers that you don't have the research for. And yet, I think it's a very important first step that we just kind of get out of people's heads their view of their universe. So in this case, this was Arizona State University. This was the ASU News website. And this was just them telling us, no research, no studies. This was just a first meeting saying, who are the people that come to the ASU News website? Like, let's understand the types of folks that be coming on here. And then within that, let's break it down a little bit under these labels. And as you can see, we progressed then into the empathy and the needs benefits, just to flesh out a couple of the ones that we thought were interesting. If we were still in person, this kind of thing works really well, but the spirit of it still, you can do this in Miro, or you can kind of have people go offline and do that as well. So here's the first big adaptation that I've kind of run into with this, which is that this used to be part of a workshop. This would be in the morning, potentially, of day one of discovery, something that you would do together. Before I go into the journey mapping, I actually ask the teams to give me a view of their customers. And I actually take the pressure off. I don't need all the research right now, but I kind of treat it like, hey, give me this lay of the land, the thing we saw back here at the top. I just want to see the top level audiences that you have, so I know and you know kind of who we're talking about. And then I tell them, within that view, I want you to help me ID one person to focus on first. And this is just a best practice of the journey so that we don't get tangled up in telling 3 or 4 stories all together that weave in and out, and it ends up like a Quentin Tarantino movie. We need clarity, which is what we're trying to go for. So let's take a look at these audiences. Let's zero in on one and let's go. And I do not begin the workshop. We do this either offline or we do a session kind of like this here, just to kind of get it visible. And then we go do some research and do some work to create the personas. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick look because Ben put something in there. Ben, do you want to share that example real quick?
Sure. Just thinking about like at the very beginning of journey mapping in pharma, a lot of times you were either deciding who to focus on. Was it the HCP who was making the decision? Was it the caregiver driving the decision? Hey, I saw this online. Or was it, the patient asking for something too? So if you didn't have that right, you would miss a large percentage of the market and miss your target altogether if you were creating the journey for the wrong person.
It's critical, but the first step there is that you could kind of rattle off those different personas, right? The
Right.
different types of folks, and that's where we begin. So, it's my belief, and Ben knows this because I work with Ben at GoDaddy. I think that there's an awful lot of knowledge in the things that people have to say to you top of mind when you first start talking. When you go in and let's say that you have a client and it's the first conversation, you want to learn about their business. I mean, they know their business. If you talk to the head of marketing, if you talk to the head of product, they've been there enough that they're going to be able to tell you a bit about, what's going on. If I ask Deb Pruitt, from ASU Git School, kind of break down the students that you see on campus, like give me kind of a top level description of who it is that it is attending. And she may correct me right away and say, well, it's not really just on campus, it's off campus. And like, here's what our student base looks like. When you've been around enough, you know your audience, and there's 80% of the knowledge that you need starts from those conversations. And then you prove it out and you get your insights through the research. And so we're actually going to do our first little activity here. And it's maybe hopefully to prove a point, but also just to practice a technique. So Matt, heads up to you. This is going to be our first breakout that we're going to do. And everybody, the activity is pretty quick and pretty painless here.
So 3 groups.
Yes, I have 3 different businesses here. You will be randomly broken up into 3 groups here when Matt pulls the trigger. You're going to get 15 minutes and you're going to go into that Miro board, and I'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. And you're going to find your group, all right? Find my business. And you're simply going to tell me who comes to this, like who are the people that comes to this business? Break them up into groups. Tell me about the current customer, tell me about the prospects. And as you do that, be thinking about, is there one that if we were going to try to grow business, because all of these represent businesses that had to experience shutdowns in one way or another that really impacted their traditional business model, right? You can't go play games at Dave & Buster's. You can't eat at the hotel restaurant. You can't work out at the gym for a while during COVID. So they're all building back in the new reality of kind of coming out of that cycle. So I'm curious when we look at that, if anybody stands out as like, this is an interesting opportunity. But more so, let's get the list of who comes there. Now, let me back out of this for 1 second. This is the
Question before we go into that group for you.
Sure, yeah, and I see a bunch of people are in there already. Just real quick, this is what you're going to be looking for. Is there's 3, right? 1, 2, 3 boards. Looks like they're getting some visitors right now. So find the 1, 2, 3 boards. First group 1 is Weston. Second group 1 is Mountainside Fitness. Third group is Dave & Buster's. I will let you self-organize. You will write on there, and you'll see that I put 1 example just to get you started for each one of these. So for example, for the Kierland Weston, families vacationing from out of town seems pretty obvious as somebody who might be going there, and you'll fill in the rest. Okay, Matt.
Yeah, we were talking about a lot around journeys of roles or people, which oftentimes I think is the logical connection to a journey, right? It's something that somebody experiences throughout time, or interactions or whatever. But are there any other ways to have a journey? Like, can the journey be around a piece of paper, that flows through a process, or the journey of a contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the answer is yes. I believe when I was looking at it, that experience mapping tool would work for that purpose, because you're taking an object and you're walking it through a process and you're understanding the experiences it has as it moves through that process. In this case, we're design, we usually talk about people, as you said, we're working with businesses and people. But that's really interesting pivot there to say, okay, I want to understand the journey of an artifact or a tool or whatever it may be.
Cool.
All right, well, we better get into this because some people are writing already and they're not even in groups yet. So guys, hold on. You're going to be split into 3 groups, and group 1 is the Weston Kierland, group 2 is Mountainside, group 3 is Dave and Buster's. You're going to work together and you're going to come back and tell us who are the people that go here. And if you scroll down on that, you're going to try to pick one within this 15 minutes that really you think is kind of interesting as a way to grow business this year, and tell us why.
All right, I'm gonna break them. Doing it.
Hey, everybody, welcome back.
Hey.
So what you're hearing there is a little conversation. I was in group 1 there, and they were just wrapping up. We're going to do some quick sharing. Group 1, let's start with you. If you can share your Miro board. The task here was to think about this business. Who comes to the business? Like who are the current customers and prospective customers? And then is there one group that stands out as kind of interesting if we're trying to build back, from the pandemic to get more of these in-person people coming to the business? So if you would share your screen, hand it to group 1. And tell us who you had to, just so everybody remembers.
Okay, we had Weston Kierland Resort, and our groups that we kind of have categorized into higher groups was a lot of families, businesses, different types of groups for like girls trips and things like that. We had a bunch of locals doing different things, just coming on for the day things or having just a staycation. Couples in love, foodies. We found out there's like a Scotch bar there and a bunch of different restaurants, and Latino food enthusiasts and wine. And then just a bunch of other odd end ones. We still haven't grouped because we ran out of time, but we thought that we had a lot of locals and we had a lot of families. So in order to get a unique, we would target the local families.
Love it. Thank you, group 1. Anybody have any questions for group 1? Okay, let's go to group 2.
Who wants to take group 2? I don't want to do that. I talk a lot. Anybody else? Are you making me do this? Okay, I'll do it.
Colleen, were you gonna do it? I saw your lips move, but you're on mute there.
I am talking to my dog and I will do
it. Okay, go for it. Share screen.
Very needy over here. I just fed her. Okay. And I got lost. Okay, so we
need you to share your. Oh, can she share screen?
Oh.
She can, but
okay.
I can if you want to just talk through it. Here, I'll share mine.
Gotcha. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay,
right.
What business you had, your audiences, and then who you kind of zero in on.
Yeah, I know we didn't get to the zeroing part, but we were the gym, and we had a lot of different ideas, and it was really cool to see. We had a lot of, so what is it, like almost a dozen, I would say, from everything from losing weight, people who are brand new, who need to learn, parents. We even had people who are athletes, who might be influencers, maybe employees who work there at the gym. And so we didn't necessarily zoom in on one that we could focus on. But for me personally, I would think the most interesting one would probably be people who need structured workouts, just because I did work at a gym for some years, and that's a big issue for a lot of people. They would tell me that all the time as an instructor. They would just say, I just don't know what to do. If I'm at home, I don't know what to do by myself. And a lot of people have been at home, right, for over a year. So they're trying to find those structured classes again, and they're trying to find those groups and those programs, right, that are going to lead them to their goals now. So if I had to pick one, I would pick that one. But
I am intrigued. That's a really interesting choice and a good reason why.
thanks. Yeah.
I agree. Let's do it.
Okay. Any questions for group 2? All right, group 3. Let's go to that one. Dave and Buster's.
Stop sharing.
And who would be our sharer for group 3?
I don't mind to talk about it.
Thank you. Can you share your screen and give us a look there? Tell us well, I just mentioned it's Dave and Buster's, but let's take it through the
Right.
audiences and then the one that you think represents an interesting opportunity and why.
I see we have a lot of different listing of different types of user groups, but they all kind of share a common idea that's just people that enjoy the kind of activity that is provided by the Dave and Buster's. And if you ask me, we didn't really necessarily have much discussion within the group, but I think just putting a general sense, just the people who wants a space for dining and gaming. So I'll probably say this guy here. If I were to cast a vote, I will vote for this, which is the general user group for Dave and Buster.
One thing that's unique for Dave and Buster's is that they also have meetups for like dancing and things like that. So it's
Did
like
not know that.
audience.
I did
Yeah.
not know that either.
They have salsa one night and country dancing and then bachata and other things. They're all different nights. Yep.
Which one is that at Tempe or the?
Tempe, yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and the
Up
country
on that
dancing.
roof, the rooftop.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell me again, who was the one that you think represents the interesting opportunity for growth there?
The people that wants to dine and game,
The diners.
diners and gamers, I guess.
Seems pretty broad to me.
Right.
I like to dine and I like to game, but of all the ones I see here, I would think that would be a little hard to target. Is there a way to go one level deeper on that? Like what would help me see a person within that, or a typical, like a prototypical, like who that would be if you were to try to find them?
Younger folks. I'm imagining a younger demographic.
Okay. And, for the sake of time, we'll put it there, but this is one of the challenges. And this is where we actually, as the designer, will push our group in that as we narrow in, obviously there's something here because that combination is the classic Dave and Buster's person. And yet there has to be a need. Like if you look at, I'll take me and my wife again. If it's a typical, like if we get a chance for a date night and to go out and to do something, that doesn't happen very often for us. And usually we're kind of in that foodie mode. Like we find a restaurant that we wouldn't just go to as a family, but that's something fun as a couple. So you could kind of label us as that, couple on a date night doing something special, foodie would kind of be the characteristics. If we was to look at this one, I see a few, like the adult birthday parties. I think those people would dine and game for sure. When you mentioned like the bowling lovers, they would dine and they would game through the billiards and the bowling part of that, I think for sure, because we always see snacks and beer and bowling kind of going hand in hand. Those kind of go together. And that's the thing, is that we want to go beyond kind of the broader category and try to get at something that we could actually research and develop a persona around, right? Because that's where the opportunity becomes more specific, and that's where we can find insights maybe to help them.
Like VR people want to game in VR or something. Or for me, I don't want to play those games. I want to play like Asteroids when they don't have those things.
Classic gamers, yeah, that kind of thing. There's a whole pinball groups that I've heard about, things like that.
Yep.
Okay, great. I am gonna hop back over to the slides here, and thank you, everybody. So the point I was trying to prove there, actually, you saw it. That was 15 minutes of your time on a business that you've spent really not much time thinking about, but you have a general knowledge of. We all have some general knowledge we can pull from. You were able to that quickly put together some really interesting views of the audience and start to zero in and think on where opportunities might lie for this business objective that we talked about. What happens, something, you know, so first of all, I like to break this out, and I do one of two things here. I will either, you know, on the route to the persona, ask the team that I'm working with, hey, we're going to do journey mapping. Give me a view of your customers. This is a GoDaddy product called Sellbrite, which is for marketplace selling. So if you've got products and you want to list on Amazon, Etsy, Poshmark, you can have one inventory, put it up on multiple places, and manage it all centrally. And there's lots of different types of people who use this. The team came back to me with this view, and this was them. They came up with the idea of like freemium Fred and niche specialist Nicole. Like that was their twist, was to actually put names. Other teams didn't go that route. They just gave me labels. But the point was, they did the thinking that you just did. I didn't ask them to do anything crazy. Just group the users and let me see, and then let's start to talk about it. And so whether you do this as a group activity like what we just did, or send the team off on homework and then review what they bring to you, it gives you a starting point for a conversation around the customers. And one thing that I think has been, I've seen this over and over again when I work with the teams on the journeys, is everybody thinks they know the customer, but when you actually sit down and ask this question, break it down for me, show me your customers, let's kind of sketch it out. They probably haven't done that in a while, or maybe they've never done that. For some of these teams, as a matter of fact, when I got to them, they're like, this is the first time we ever really took the tribal knowledge we had and put it in one place to talk about our customer. And we went to several different people to kind of crowdsource this and do this. So I would, you know, in this step, we go back to our overall topic, which was, you know, experience mapping in this Zoom crazy world. You've got the questions in the beginning to get the business foundation. And of course, you need to answer, who is it that we're going to be doing this mapping for? Break that out and either host a simple discussion like this. It can be highly valuable for the team to come together and talk about the audience like we just did. Again, everybody knows their customer, but when's the last time they spent even a half hour just really talking together about it and breaking it down and seeing how things have changed, or nuances of like different voices in the room and what they did. It's a great way to just build that engagement around the audience and start that process of identifying who it is we think we want to talk about and why. Big ideas come out very quickly. And so you can either do then, in this case, in the audience analysis side, an interactive discussion that then leads to the next steps, or have them do this kind of thing. In our case, once we've done that high level discussion, to address kind of what Taylor had said earlier, like you don't want to just run off then without any research and say, okay, we've got our focus, because you know what Colleen shared with us a minute ago sounded like a really good idea. Sometimes you may be tempted to just run with it, and that one I think you could get some mileage on, but you want to go do your due diligence. So once they had put this together, I appreciated that this team already pulled some data points. But we went out and we did that research. We looked at our internal data and customer data around them. We talked to some of these customers, and I engaged again with the team. Once we had done that, I created another activity, which is a 1-hour breakout, where I had an empty template. Imagine this template here. The name was in there because they gave me the name, but all these other things, it was stubbed out, but there was no content. And then together we just talked through it. You know, we just kind of started filling in, and it was really rough writing, but I let them give me the initial sketch. And then our team went off and kind of created what ended up becoming the end result here. So you see the theme is we're kind of chunking these out, and we're involving the folks each step of the way, because we can't really do it in an all-day workshop anyways. And you've got the luxury here that we're working towards, you know, time together, but let's use the off-camera time wisely. Okay, so that's kind of in the foundational side, the first step here. So now let's talk about part two, because the first part was setting the foundation. Part two is empathy. And this is where we get into the design thinking theme that we spent time on at the beginning of the year. Of course, the first step in this process is empathize. And the empathy map is one of the go-to tools that we have for doing that. So is that audience analysis and the persona stuff as well. But if we really want to dedicate time, this was designed to do exactly that. Put us in the customer's shoes, think around from their perspective, the situation, so that as we enter our design, our journey work, the scenario mapping that we might be doing, we're seeing it really with a deep understanding of who that customer is or who that person is. Now, this is going back kind of pre-pandemic, and this is a GoDaddy journey workshop. And over here in the corner, that's an empathy map. I've always liked breaking this out as its own step and doing it as part of my journey workshops. Because what I found is that in real time, as we were going through the journey workshop, it was really hard to keep going through and say, okay, what are they feeling at this moment? What are they thinking at this moment? Let's do the touch points. There's so many dimensions. And so by doing the empathy map first, you actually get a lot of those things written for you so that you can kind of progress and use that knowledge with the group without having to kind of keep iterating and iterating to get each of the layers built out. So in a way, this became another natural thing just to break out. If you think about this though, like going back to the group, I mentioned that like one of the challenges that I had there is in a workshop, what I would see is that people would keep wanting to go forward in the story. Like they couldn't slow down telling the story to say, what are they feeling? Or what are they doing? Or, keep working down the line in the detail. People kept wanting to say, what was next? What was next? And that's where the empathy map helped me because I could fill in gaps and use it to bring people back because we had done this work. What are some of the other things? Oh, you're hearing me scratch. I'm sorry, I did that before in this desk. I will keep hands off on the mic. Thanks, Matt. So what are some of the other things for those who have done the in-person workshops back in the day? What are some of the things that you remember that were challenges in journey type workshops?
Well, although you have the same problem now, but yeah, side conversations. Oh, I have to go and take this call, or somebody comes in the room. Oh, I need you, and that's probably the decider at that point, and that person leaves, and it's disruptive.
That is so true. Attention, keeping their focus, keeping them in the room, definitely a big one. Alan, I see you wrote, they want to solution too quickly without fully understanding the problems.
Yeah, so usually what I do is I give everyone a piece of paper, and if they want a solution, I just have them solution to themselves and write it down on a piece of paper. And they'll have a place on the wall where they can put all their solutions up. So you don't lose that idea or your thought, but it doesn't interrupt the room or the rest of the group from where we're at in the workshop. And then you can come back to it later, do an affinity with it, or however way you want to break it up and go through them.
Definitely seen that. Yeah, good call out there. Any others come to mind?
Got one. Like a lot of the times there's a bit of a fatigue at the end, like it's a little too much. And they're just ready, like to Alan's point, they're like, oh, we already got what we needed. Let's go solution. But they're not wanting to really evaluate and go through what are they thinking, what are they saying, and really understand, go step by step, right? So they're always moving forward, but then I get the fatigue every once in a while.
I think you hit another huge one there, and I totally remember what that was like. Definitely.
And I'll add another one. The wall. You're like basically taking out a ladder sometimes because it's so big.
Giant space, yeah.
Yes.
Anybody have any others? Difference of opinion among the group. Well, that's one. And in a way, you want that. Like you need to kind of root that out so it doesn't hide on you and come back to haunt you later. But yeah, that can definitely be a problem that we run into. And I'm glad you called. Actually, I'm going to stop there because this is a perfect setup. And I appreciate that last one was just right on the money too. So I did want to call out what Matt said, which is I think that the biggest distraction that we see today is the multitasking. And when you're on Zoom and you're off camera, chances are a lot of times, whether it's, you know, the pet, the kid, some food, your phone, you know, it's so easy. And it was already a difficult situation. So that's something that we look out for. But here's the thing. Once again, you see the pattern here. The empathy workshop can be done on its own in 60 minutes or less. Like you can literally take the empathy mapping workshop, schedule a 1-hour meeting, everybody's in there, and it does a few things for you. First of all, like all of this is cutting down on fatigue, because we've, instead of that big, long, giant 1-day or 2-day or 3-day thing, we're spreading this out. We're saying, okay, we're going to do a journey map. Week 1, we're going to do the audience analysis, and we're going to do our, you know, get our research done around and build the persona. And in week 2, we'll have, you know, persona done. We're going to do an empathy mapping workshop. That's 1 hour. And then we're going to be ready after that to talk about our journey map. By spacing these out and then having the meeting time condensed, but you know, full of really interesting conversation and the potential for insights, that's a big deal. And it's easy. An hour we can do. The difference of opinion, the thing that I've seen that comes up so often that can derail is, in spite of the audience conversations, when it comes time to go to empathy mapping, which is now we're stepping away from just talking about all the customer possibilities and we've chosen one, I like to have a little bit of distance between that decision and the empathy mapping activity, because I usually start the workshops by showing that person, saying, okay, here's who we agreed to talk to. And then I look everybody in the eye and I say, somebody here thinks we picked the wrong person. And I always get big smiles. And then sure enough, somebody's like, you know, I'm like, go ahead, say it. Like, you know, what do you have to say about it? And then it's usually something like, well, it's not that we picked the wrong person, but, and then they'll tell you their thing. You know, this part here, or that thing there, or this isn't realistic to this thing. It is so important to get that alignment. And breaking this out as a step, it tells people we're moving forward. And it also gives you that chance to check that decision and make sure that we pick the right person and the right opportunity before you overinvest even more in the next steps coming up. It builds empathy, so you get that opportunity, which is the first step in the design thinking. But then, as we said, it will create the ability that as you chunk out the journey mapping workshop, you're going to have options now because you've captured this information that's going to make it easier to condense that workshop as well, which is where the bulk of the thing is going to happen. Okay, so are you guys ready to try empathy mapping activity with me? Say yes. This is fast, as you can see. Yeah. In fact, we're not going to do 15 minutes on the breakout. This should be like a 10-minute breakout, Matt, if you will help me on this.
I'll just, I'll make well, I think it automatically will break us up, but yeah, I'll put an alarm on.
Okay, so let me back out of this for just a minute. Now, folks, if you are in the Miro board, you will see, oops, sorry, just scroll to the right of what we were just at. And here is the empathy map. Okay, this will be 4 groups. So we're not doing 3 different businesses right now. We need to choose one. Okay, so our first task we're going to do here is a group, which is we have to choose Dave and Buster's. Well, we're not going to choose them because we didn't quite get to the specific person, but we can choose either Mountainside Fitness, people who need structured workouts, or we are going to pick the Westin local families. Which one of these do we want to choose and do an empathy map around? Local families or people who need structured workouts?
I can set up a vote.
Structured workouts, because I don't know what that means. I think I'm gonna learn a lot.
All right, so Colleen, will you tell us again? I'm just going to run with that because it's more for the activity. Tell us again about the structured workouts and what that person is and what that opportunity looks like.
Absolutely. So if you think probably to New Year's resolutions, I think that's the one that everyone can imagine the most. I would have my classes completely filled in January, and it was usually people who just maybe wanted to try yoga or stretching or something for the first time, but they didn't quite know how to start. And their thinking, I'm assuming, was just that I'm just gonna go. I get myself in the building, and then that's the hardest part for them. And then it's like the instructor is there and the people are around them to really guide them through step by step, to tell them exactly what to do. Grab your mat, grab your blocks, pick a spot on the floor. Okay, make sure you can see me. When I say this, do that. Like, it's just literally step-by-step guidance. Does that make sense?
Okay. Now, folks, you're gonna have to kind of go along with the flow here, because it's a 2-hour meeting, and we're gonna even try to end early a little bit if we can. We're not doing personas here. We're not doing research. We're taking the spirit of this and just trying to practice empathy mapping. So guess what? I am your persona. Okay, so Tony here, I hate to even say it, I'm a 50-year-old dude. Been around for a while. I am a dad. Fitness is important to me. I've never done yoga ever. I think I tried one time at GoDaddy outdoors at a thing, but I've never really done that. I absolutely am fitness minded. It matters to me. And I am at a place where mobility and it matters to me. So yoga is interesting because it will help with my flexibility and it'll fit my generally active life cycle, but I don't know anything about it. And let's imagine that I'm the person who's going to be trying to do this, and I am in need because I don't know what I'm doing. I can't just go practice on my own. I need to be led, guided, taught, and I need to, have some sort of class or other structure to do this. Okay. Now, in this case, we are all going to work on this one problem together. Okay. So Tony is your persona. I'm looking to get a structured workout kind of set up at Mountainside Fitness. All right, so in the middle of this is my face. You're going to be in 4 groups. The first group, if you are in group 1, what is Tony doing? What are the tasks? What are the things that I need to do in order to achieve this goal of, I'm trying to find, a structured workout. It's my first time doing yoga, and I'm considering Mountainside Fitness. So what am I doing? How am I approaching that from a task standpoint? Researching, visiting, talking, that kind of thing. Group 2, what is influencing me? I just mentioned that I had, there's a GoDaddy class that I had gone to a while ago, just one thing. Maybe I have friends, but other things that could do that. What are the things that might influence? And it could be signage, it could be ads, could be my social media or people or things I'm seeing or doing. Group 3, you are going to do the pains and the goals. They go together. So you will have to kind of be creative here. What are my goals? I mentioned that, I'm trying to stay flexible. I'm getting older, but I'm very active. Yoga seems like a way that I can kind of keep doing the things I want to do longer. What's a pain? You can imagine there's a lot, because I've never done this before. I don't even know what equipment I need to have. Am I going to walk in looking like an idiot wearing whatever clothes I'm wearing and everybody's dressed like differently or whatever? And group 4, how am I feeling? You've got enough of sense me in this to get a little idea of my personality. I'm pretty outgoing, but I know what it's like to be a fish out of water too. And I will be when I try something new here. So give an idea and explore how that might go. All right, so you're going to get 10 minutes. Just put your time into this and get as far as you can, and then we'll come back and share. 4 groups, and I think we're ready to go. Okay, so one thing I'll point out is that you guys really, we gave ourselves 10 minutes. We were done in probably 6, right? 6 minutes to empathize. I mean, this activity, I can't emphasize, this can go fast. This does not have to be painful. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun. And most of the time, which is cool, is that you're breaking out and then you're sharing, you're talking, which is what we're going to do right now. So group 1, let's go to you. And actually, in this case, I'll just share my screen so we can see the full empathy map. And group 1, you had what I'm doing. So on my, path seeking a structured environment to get into this yoga class stuff, what are the things I'm doing? Go ahead and describe for us kind of what you guys came up with. Group 1 spokesperson, please.
Let's see. I think a lot of that, what we focused on was actually just showing up and getting to a class, getting registered, figuring out which class to take.
That is a pain point now.
Yeah.
Registering for classes. Before you didn't have to do that in a lot of places.
Yeah, a lot of places have systems now, right. So if classes are overrun now, you get ticket systems and things like that. So depending on the gym.
Yeah, you can see there's some work involved in here, because like in that choosing of a class, I also see choosing a level, something that fits my skill level. And then if there are training options, maybe there are different choices of the group or whatever kind of setting it's going to be. And then I see another really big one over here, which is the proper equipment. You know, well, I mentioned that when it comes to like getting dressed for this thing, in fact, I think in general, I haven't, sorry, with our canvas just changed sizes here. I haven't bought clothes, I think, at all during the pandemic. I'm not in that mode, and I would feel like anything I would wear into this class would be old, you know, and I wouldn't necessarily want to show up a place for the first time that I'm feeling nervous in clothes that I believe don't make me feel my best either. So yeah, I think that's right. But on top of the clothes, then they mentioned there's things like the mat, and I don't know what else. So good, you can get a sense that there's going to be work involved before I can go into this class. And some of it will be researching, some of it will be using interfaces for scheduling or signing up. There's probably information I need to put out. Some of it will be shopping, maybe in person and online, but how do I know, as you heard, like how do I know what to even shop for? There's that kind of information needs. Good, group 2. This is influences. There's more here than I thought. Who can speak to group 2?
I guess I can go. Some of us had an easy time doing this because maybe we are a little bit of an influencer in that pool.
Yeah.
But some of us could actually relate to our own personal, like for me, I could relate to my own personal experiences as well. So I think those influencers could be universal for someone who's close to 50 or past 50 and so forth. But it was really about what are the things based on what Tony talked about and what we understand about Tony help, you know, influence him from a day-to-day basis, and how can those items help encourage him and be influencers for him to start taking up yoga. I was pretty proud of the one that says wants to look good in Lululemons.
Everybody looks good in Lulu.
Thanks
Or
a lot.
more cardio equals more food. So right, increase your metabolism.
That is, hey, I love that. I actually do operate that way. If I did my workout, then I can have that extra slice of pizza or get a burger on the way home. But good. Okay, so we see some of the influences, some of which are internal to me, like my motivation to stay in shape is caught there, which is good. Some of these things are external to me. Yeah, I think in general, you've got a nice bit of dimension here. Let's go to group 3 and talk about, you know, your interpretation of some of my goals and then some of my pain points. Group 3.
Who wants to go?
Where's all our talkers? Yeah.
Well, I could try it out again on this one.
Thank you.
So in terms of the goals, they all, again, they're pretty similar. Overall, it's just all about improving your physical health, hoping to get into better shapes and also recover from injury, to reduce pain, that sort of idea. And in terms of the pain point are a lot similar to the goals that you're trying to achieve. one of the few things that I list is like the vulnerability of, like what you said, you're not sure how it feels like to expose your body, how it really feels to expose your body to other people, and don't know how you compare to others, and not necessarily knowing what to do, and the chances of injuring yourself, all that. And maintaining the motivation is probably a really big one, I would say, to a lot of gym goers.
This is amazing that actually each one of these so far, I've been amazed with the amount of coverage that you have. In the goals side, I think, you know, you've got things that are very tangible and then things that are a little bit more out there, like, but it's true. I mean, the feeling young is definitely a part of this as well. Recapture the glory days. It's funny because that goes hand in hand with the recovering from injury. You saw, maybe you remember I said I play volleyball because I kind of got into that through the coaching. I'm about to do a dad-daughter thing, and us dads are taking it really seriously. Like, we want to beat those kids, you know, and it's the little things, you know, but if we can be competitive, recapturing even just a little bit of glory, and if I can come out of that without injuring myself, I will be very happy. That's just where we're at. And then same with these pain points, really good. I'm sorry, there's gonna be a comment.
Well, and since you're 50, you know, do you have the technology to be able to schedule these things?
It's a fair thing, depending on where they're putting things. Maybe I see it, maybe I don't. Maybe there's an app or a thing I need to get that I'm not on. And I like whoever put overzealous instructor. That's you nailed it there too. Like, you're right. You know, I in a brand new situation, that would kind of set me off a little bit, as an uncertain kind of person walking in. That's great. It's really, really good thoughts. Okay, group 4. I think Ashley, you were going to just talk about this. What are some of the feelings? And I think we've hit it a lot as we go through the others, but just to kind of wrap up.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, you'd be feeling a lot of different things at different stages of your experience with mountain fitness. So, you know, at the start, you might feel determined, excited, adventurous. Things aren't totally scary yet. And then maybe walking into your first class, you feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. You know, you feel old, you feel awkward, maybe a little nervous, and you're kind of questioning, do I belong here? Is this really what I want to do? And if you get past that point, you know, afterward, you might feel encouraged. You might start to feel a little bit more competitive as you get to know people. You might feel more dedicated to maybe a new fitness regime you put together. So lots of different emotions, but definitely at different stages of the experience.
It was great. And Alan, thanks again for that, putting that picture there for everybody to see. I appreciate that. That's really
one of my
is me.
favorites.
Thankfully, it's a little blurry.
Do you
Guys,
remember where?
at the Fiesta Bowl.
Yep.
All right. Well, you can see it for yourselves and you can feel it. This was, I mean, we got done through all of that in about maybe 20 minutes. Right? So you can literally, I mean, if you schedule an hour, what I'm assuming is the first part, you're talking about the persona, which you would have. We wouldn't be making it up like we're doing here. And you'd be trying to root out some of those things in the group, like, you know, where there's disagreements or where there's tweaking that we need to make to bring it really in line. And you're creating a little bit of distance between the first decision and then this next checkpoint. So people have had time to think about it and hopefully feel good about moving forward or discuss. But when you look at what's here and how much, you know, insight all around this experience we've just produced in that little tiny amount of time, it should make you feel really confident that you can run this kind of activity and set yourself up then to go do a journey map and have a lot of success, but be able to now condense that process because of the work that you've put in separating these out, which to me, that's been the big thing that Zoom has done, is it took what was actually, as we described, a really long process and it could be a bit fatiguing and had things, and it broke it up. And part of me is really thinking like, we should have done more of that anyways. You know, I know why we did the all-day workshops, but this is almost a better way for a lot of reasons. All right,
You
so
want
let's
to get paid for a whole day, right? I mean, like, well, for us as consultants, like Oh, that's an hour. Oh, okay.
Well, there is that thing that, you know, to get everybody's time, you had to kind of get everybody in one place. You had to clear their calendar. So this is all you got. And yes, you want to get paid for that time. But I would say that if you go to work on that problem, you know, by having this behind the scenes work, there's still hours to charge there.
Oh, absolutely. No, I was just joking. Because the whole thing of like, if you're not in a meeting, you're not making money, I guess. But
mine's yeah. Anyway, I know you were joking, but
you probably don't have that problem, but yeah.
I know it's Jimmy, from the consulting side. All right, so we are not, that's the last activity, but we're going to cruise through this last session to kind of tie it up. So now we're actually ready to talk about the journey mapping, and we do have a fork in the road here. There's a few different ways of going about this, and actually it's funny because fork in the road, I'm of the mindset of, you know, there's a fork in the road, you take it. So there's actually 3 directions here: left, right, or you take the fork in the road. The first one is you do what you did before. You go through the whole freaking journey and you walk through it stage by stage, but you break it up into several workshops. Okay, if you do that, you do get the benefit that together as a group, you're going to go through all stages. You'll have the chance to discuss. And because you break it up, you will get to help a little bit with the fatigue factor. You can also be smart in your scheduling. Not everybody has to go to every section. Some people do. But you know, if you're in the marketing stage in the beginning and you exit into maybe more of a management and support stage, maybe the marketers don't have to come to that next one, right? So you can kind of be judicial in that. But in general, doing number 1 to me, maybe not necessary based on all the things that we did. I think you can be effective in a couple of different ways. So that's number 2. With that Sellbrite team, the one that I showed the example of the personas from GoDaddy with Freemium Fred, I actually set up a simple Excel spreadsheet and kind of built a framework and asked them to tell me the story of this person. Like, take a first pass and write out the story of, like, you know, I gave you kind of the structure, you build it out. So at Freemium Fred, it was, he'd sold a few things on eBay or Craigslist before, but casually, never thinking about it as a business. Now he's going to look at doing this for side income. It's a side hustle kind of deal. And they showed me kind of what their view of the story was, and they built that offline. The important thing there, of course, is that they did the first draft, not me, right? Because they're staying engaged in doing this. And then we came together. And our approach to the meeting, to the journey meetings, was we're not going to build the journey in the meeting. We're going to talk about the journey in the meeting. So we built the core, and then we brought all the people in and we said, okay, let's talk about this moment. Let's go deep and wide on it. Let's talk with the marketers, talk with the care people, you know, everybody who affects this moment. And that allowed us to selectively move through the journey instead of having to cover all of it, because we'd done that pre-work and we could highlight moments that were mapping to our goals. And then that one on the right there, this is a real-time activity. This is a blank canvas that you fill in, and I'm going to show you an example of this, but it's a similar idea that if you've done this pre-work and you can kind of get to the goals and say, okay, what we really want to focus on is we're going to create a workshop. We're going to look at what it is for Tony to go from this interest that he has and go through our experience today and see if he can sign up for that class. And in this workshop, you set up, I'll show you an example of this. It's a simple map that you do, and you're real time doing what the user would do, taking screenshots and mapping and putting this onto a canvas. And you're determining based on the line, is this something that's a positive experience, something that's moving you forward and making that a better chance of achieving your goal? Is it a neutral experience? It didn't really map either way, didn't affect you either way. Or is this a negative experience where you're potentially going to abandon or do something else? Thank you, Alan. Yeah. Oh, my 3-year-old will bounce. All right, got it. I thought you had to bounce. Okay, sorry.
No. I do have a question when you're done.
Well, and so I think I was pretty much done with that last one, is that it's a real-time build, but it's again isolated. So you have some options of how you might proceed with the workshop at this point. Alan, hit it.
So my question was, and maybe it's similar to the third one, have you ever done or thought about doing a journey map where each department is responsible for their part of the journey map, but then hypothesizing what they think are the different layers of the journey map that don't touch them directly. It could be a different department. For
Ooh.
example, maybe you're doing a journey map and you have marketing and technology participating. Marketing might not understand the full journey as it relates to technology and vice versa, but you use it as an opportunity to establish a baseline and understand where the gaps are to help tear down those silos.
I have not. We did, the closest is actually what I was describing on the right. Like we brought just the people related to acquisition, like our search engine marketing, our brand, and then our website, basically the first line of conversion in this case together. And we did talk about it in layering of just those dimensions, but I really like what you're suggesting, which is to kind of individually have them look at it and then maybe bring those pieces together. That would be a really fun way to do it. That's like another option here. I love that, Alan. Have you done that, or do you just think about that, right?
I just thought about it now. I mean, I could see that going wrong where one department might get offended that they felt so undervalued by how another one is, but it depends on the environment. And
Yeah.
I've been trying to tear down walls across departments for a while. So
it's a really creative idea. I would actually love to try that. And it, like, moving along, this is, I wanted to show you what this looks like. This is the above the line, below the line. So Matt, when I told you I had like a new technique of how I'm doing this, this involves the team and they're like I put them into a breakout. And in this case, like what I have them do is like, it just like, let's begin, you know, in the beginning, you have to have your pre-work of who's your persona, who's your scenario. So let's say that it's the dad. And in this case, I said the dad who wants to bring his family back to the gym. We're going to sign up, 3 of us, and sign up. So at the beginning, you simply walk them through kind of the prototypical kind of journey, like what comes to mind. Okay, I've been hearing about this EOS fitness from a few people. I've never been to one, but people told me it's good and it's cheap. So I kind of have a slightly favorable opinion. Orange Theory, it's not that it's a bad place. I've been there before. It's too small for me and it's too intense. I don't want to commit to like burning 1,200 calories in an hour every time I walk in. I want different levels of workouts. Mountainside, I used to go there. There were kind of a-holes during the pandemic. I'm aware of that, you know, but I also understand their perspective. So I'm kind of neutral on it. I like them and I would consider them, but it's not positive or negative. So you see how I'm using the line to capture impressions. Now, here's what it looks like. I just did this real quick today. All right. So if I go to Google, the first thing is I want to know what's near me. What are the gyms in my area? Because I don't know everything, especially since the pandemic. What shut down? What opened up? So here's what this looks like. And it is a neutral, if slightly positive, because it's helping me and it's suggesting. And then I get this. I can't help it. Anytime I'm asked to share my location, I don't like it, even when it's helping me. It's a something in my psychology. I don't know if you guys have this, but I begrudgingly do it. I'm like, well, I am trying to find gyms in my area. So, okay, this time you can do it. I'm just funny that way, but it's a feeling. It's you know, I can't help it. So now, first thing that comes up is Mountainside. Huh, they were somebody I thought of, and what do you know? There they are. And there's one right close to me that's new, and there's a couple other in the area. So that's interesting. Let me click it. So I click that very first thing. Here's what it looks like. I know it's small, but zero in on that thing on the far right.
Well, you didn't get the cookie pop-up?
This was what I had. This was on my phone. Have you seen? I mean, to me, first of all, it's a horrible impression. Yeah. I mean, the words are all on top of each other there.
Yeah,
like you
it's
see
not
that?
Responsive.
And then their decision to put about 1,000 little icons and text there that I don't even know what it's trying to tell me. It looks old. It doesn't feel to me like a modern gym or a good thing. And if I have to try to sign up for a class on this thing, I'm already intimidated. So I'm kind of, now it's down below. But this is how this activity is run. It's just on a big Miro canvas. It's got the line. People understand it instantly. Like they know good experience above, neutral in the middle, bad below. And what happens is as you start doing this, you start annotating, right? You're putting your little stickies on here with some things. You know, let's go look up, like if this was a GoDaddy experience, or if I worked for Mountainside and I was going through this workshop, I would certainly want to understand, mobile responsiveness on an iPhone over here. I would be curious about how many people click on what and what the bounce rate is. I would want to know click through on this ad. Clearly, we're doing paid media here. So what is the cost per acquisition of that? And do we have other landing pages or other experiences? Did I get routed to one or multiple? You start to unpack and kind of build this out, and you can analyze it and go. To me, this has been way more effective getting people engaged, and you're looking at real screens. You're talking about real things. You can't do it for every step, but you can do it for most and fill in the stickies. This is where I see the workshop coming to life in the way that it didn't when I was doing stickies on a wall. And the teams are usually running this, is what I try to do. Okay, so then, this actually fits really well with what Alan was saying. I mean, you saw, I gave a few options of the way you can approach the workshop now. The whole idea is if you take these steps and you're developing your foundation, you've got your business objectives, the metrics you're going after, you're talking about customer, you get into audience analysis, you build the persona, you empathize. If you're breaking out and doing these steps, you can now take liberties. That what Alan just brought up is a great innovative idea to try out. And you can do that confidently without feeling like you're going to miss things, because you've got that foundation of the rest of the work that you did that's going to help you out. But there are a few deal breakers to look out for. Do not get put into a situation where the team's like, why don't you just go do it and then come back and we'll review it, right? If they're not actively helping to build in these steps and they're just listening to you talk, your chances of success are diminished quite a bit from if they're actively building and doing the things with you. And if you do get to that critical meeting, right, it's the audience workshop and we're going to do this, or it's the empathy mapping and we're going to do that, and you've identified who the key people are, but both the product manager and the marketer cancel out and they don't give a reason and they're not going to be there, you move the meeting. Right? These are essential steps. If people are not proving to be invested, you need to get them invested and not skip that, or again, you're kind of getting yourself in a bad spot. And then finally, don't just try to jump to the journey workshop, as Taylor and others had pointed out earlier, without doing the discipline of the job that which is take these great ideas and directions you're hearing, but go do the research, talk to customers, look at the data, pull that information, just all the due diligence we do as designers to true up what, are often good ideas we hear, but to base them in fact.
When you go and flow that out with the UI and stickies, are you capturing the thinking and feeling parts of it too? I mean, you have the feeling part, I suppose, because you have the line, so you covered that.
And that's the thing, like, yes and no. I mean, we're getting impulsive impressions as we go through here, but the reason I feel like we can take these liberties is we just look so closely. Like if this was the Tony thing and we did the empathy map, we've got a really rich, kind of, what do you want to say, variety of kind of inputs that we as the designers, if we're leading this, we can take these together and I can still build you that map with all the dimensions because I put these pieces together.
I see. Yeah.
And in some cases, that's the thing. A lot of times I get to the end of these and the map is no longer the important thing. It's a different output that they want, so anyways, yeah, it gives you lots of options. And again, I actually did put the, in the template, I put a couple canvases, but I knew we wouldn't get there with time to do this activity, and that's okay. So to wrap up, the main things were, don't skip the foundational work. Like, we know that a lot of times we get requests that come without all of the information or knowledge around the customer, around the objective. Don't get tricked into starting something without having those. If stakeholders are misaligned, if we've got the wrong customer, we're going to waste a lot of time. So ask those questions, create value right from the start. And then chunk this out and get the team working with you. Involving them, it's going to create a lot of value in those much tighter windows, an hour meeting here, an hour meeting there, homework in between, and you're going to get a lot done. And that's what ultimately lets you do something like a 90-minute journey workshop that actually has good value at the end, where they're hands-on and doing things. And sometimes people will ask you to do a part 2 or whatever else, but it really lets you be strategic then when breaking the rules. Any other comments, thoughts, questions? It's been a long evening here, so I appreciate those that have stayed all the way through here.
Kind of a fun thing that I've done with some of these workshops is I'll record it on my GoPro and then I'll time lapse it and
Ooh.
use it as kind of a fun video on the readout with other people who weren't involved in the workflow in the workshop.
I like that. Yeah, I would love, I mean, I think that there's a lot of creative techniques that we can do now with Teams because we have so many things happening on camera or in Miro's, like assembling things in different ways to show them is something that I think is another fun topic to think about.
And I post this in the chat. Be careful of executive or super senior leadership members participating. That could influence how someone would want to be truthful or open participating in a workshop. So like a CTO participating in a workshop or a CPO. I've seen that happen, unfortunately.
Definitely. All right. Well, I think that we have made it to the end here. So thank you all for the time and ability to talk about that. To me, you know, these are just necessary things because you couldn't host an all-day Zoom, nor would you ever want to. And, you know, the surprise has been that breaking it out created opportunities to get the team even more involved sometimes than what they would have been in that all-day workshop. So hopefully some of this resonates. I know a lot of it to me was intuitive, so hopefully it fit for you and you're just feeling like, yeah, I can go back and do this. And if anybody wants to connect, I'll get this deck to Matt, we'll share it out, and UX and AZ is the place. So come on and join the group, message, and I will keep the conversation going there.